Okay, so now we're going to go into what's called geometry. It's chapter 6. There's 8 chapters, so we've only got 6, 7, and 8 to do, and then you'll be going home for summer vacation. Everybody say yay. Okay, good. Now, let's go on to our first thing here. We're going to do objects. So this is objects in our world, and we're going to talk about some things in our world. And these are going to be some shapes. Now, these shapes, many of the things in the world that we have resemble different geometric shapes, and we're going to study some of the basic geometric shapes. The first one's called a rectangular prism, and the second one's called a triangular prism. And yes, if you look at the back of the billboard back there, you would find some of them, but don't worry, I'm going to show you some up here too, okay? The second thing is you have to understand a word called attributes. Now, attributes are the things that we use to describe something. So if I go back to where the definition was, you can see down here, right here, it says attributes right there. An attribute is a way to describe a shape or an object. For example, you describe somebody's attributes or for a shape's attributes by the number of sides it has, or the number of edges, or the number of vertices. If you want to describe Tiffany's attributes, you would talk about her height and her weight and her eye color and whether she has 2 ears or only 1. Okay, good. All right. So we're going to talk about attributes. Those are how you describe stuff. So let's take a look at the first one. The first term I want to talk about is called a face when we're talking about an object. A face. Now you take a look at these particular objects here. You can see that there are 3 faces which are there to be described, right? So I'm going to go over here and grab my face box of toys. Yeah, just be careful. No, these are acrylic plastic. Okay? And just a second, sit down, sit down, sit down.
Those things are
Alright? Now, you can see, your parents can't see what I'm holding, but I've got a whole bunch of geometric polyhedrons. Mom and Dad may know what that means. But these are called polyhedrons. That means shape, a 3-dimensional shape. Okay? Now, we're talking about a face. You see the yellow on the end of this?
Yeah.
That's called a face. This is also the base of something. This one here has also got a whole bunch of faces. That part right there is a face. This part right here is a face. This part, which is all yellow, that's a face. Do you understand?
Yeah.
When you take a look at my drawings here on the board, the ones that are white with the lines through them, those are called faces. When they're on the bottom, like the third one over here, this one right here is on the bottom, right? We refer to that as its base. Now, most of the ones I'm holding up have a yellow bottom, don't they? That means that that's meant to be the bottom. So the base is on the bottom, just like these two are out like that. Okay? Now, we're going to be going into all the different types of shapes. Just don't drop them if I put them on your desk without touching them. They're not going to break you. Right? But what I'm giving out to the class is a bunch of ones. Okay? This is a circle. This is what's called a hemisphere. This is a cone. Okay? This one is a cylinder. Okay? You'll notice on every one of these shapes that I give out, one of them is colored, right? And that means that we have those colors. Oh, I need to keep it from today. Yeah. What's that? This is the other half.
Can I have the purple one?
And this is the, okay. This is the end of my stuff here. Okay. Now.
I can get one.
No, it's not enough for everybody to get one. So you just have to look, and if you don't look at the one you're looking at, you can pass to the next person, but you gotta be quiet while we do this. Okay. Now, if you take a look at what we've got here, these are the faces, or the flat surfaces of these shapes. Okay? So if I said, how many faces does this particular object I'm holding up in my hand have? How many faces do you think there are?
6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There are 6. That's correct. Okay? Let's go on to the next slide. The next thing we have to talk about is the types of faces that you have. There are 2 major shapes we're going to work with. If you take a look at the shape that Meg has, you'll see that that one's called a tetrahedron. It's also called a prism. It's a triangular prism. And there should be one other triangular prism somewhere here. Do we have it? Oh, there it is. If you take a look at Brooke's hat, Brooke has this one in her hands. All right? So, Brooke, how many rectangles are on your shape? Rectangles. Rectangle is 4 sided. How many? 1, exactly. How many triangles are on your shape, Brooke? 4. You take a look at Brooke's shape, you can look at the one up here on the smartboard, you can see right here, there's a triangle here, there's a triangle there, there's a triangle on the front, you can't see it, but there's a triangle on the back also, isn't there? Now the base, if you look at Brooke's, what color is that one, Brooke? Green, so her base is down here, and you can see that hers is green. What shape is the base, Brooke? Square. The base is a square, and all of the other faces are triangles, aren't they? Okay, moving on to the next slide. When the faces are identical, they are called congruent. That's a word you have to learn, congruent. What is it, Tiffany?
Every time you talk, my shape doesn't.
Yes, because the sound coming out of the speaker is hitting it. All right? It's called resonating. Isn't that cool? All right, now, so look at this. Do you see on the triangular prism right here on the left? See this one right here? How many shapes do you see on that which are exactly the same? Haley? 2, exactly. There's one right here, I'll circle it, and there's one right there. Right? That one has 2 congruent sides. There was also some congruent sides on the second figure. Sydney, how many are on this one? How many pairs of congruent sides?
2.
Close. 3. There's the 2 here on the ends, right? There's the top and the bottom, right? And then it's hard to see, but there's the front and the back, isn't there? So if you take a look at the one I have in my hand right here, you take a look at this one right here, this is the one that we just talked about. And you can see the red part, that's the base. Now if you want to talk about which sides are congruent, the base is congruent, that's the part on the bottom, and the one on the top, right? Do you see those 2 shapes right there? One here, and one here. See those? They're exactly the same, aren't they? That means they are congruent. What about the side here and the side there? That means they are congruent, right. And the front and the back? They are the same. That means that they are congruent. Okay, now, Brooke has a pyramid. That's called a triangular, okay? It's not a triangular prism, it's a pyramid. Now, looking at that one, how many congruent sides are there on that one, Brooke? 4. She has 4. And you go back to what we just saw a second ago, you can see she's talking about the ones on the outside, the triangle shapes. They are all the same. That makes them congruent. So Sid, you have a triangular prism on yours, which looks like similar to the one we have here on the left. How many congruent rectangles are there on that one?
2. No.
How many congruent rectangles?
Rectangles. Wait. I don't know how many there is.
That's a rectangle, so how many of those? That's 1, 2.
Okay, so
There's right. So, Sydney's triangular prism has 3 congruent rectangles. How many congruent triangles, Sid?
congruent triangles. 1.
2, exactly. There are 2 congruent triangles. All right, turn to the next slide. Take a look up front. Oh, we got something at the door. I'm going to pause my recording and answer the whole Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up the second lesson. And the second lesson is working with the term congruent. So we're going to start part 2 here. So when faces are exactly the same, they are what we call congruent. So you could take, if you could peel a sticker off of the sides of these stickers would fit on top of each other perfectly. They'd be a perfect match. Okay? That is what congruent means. Our next step is to take a look at this shape. Now, yesterday some of you had this, and we found out yesterday that congruent sides are the faces on this object because it looks like a prism. You have the left-hand side right here, and this side right there. These 2 sides, they are congruent. The top is congruent with the bottom, and the front and the back are also congruent, aren't they?
Back is back. To be backwards. Yeah.
But you got to turn around to read it right.
Oh,
If you turn it around, it would look right, wouldn't it? And, all right.
Then the
So that, does this object have any congruent faces? All right, we top, left and right, top and bottom, and front and back. Okay. What about this one right here? Does this one have any congruent sides? Okay, okay, what do you think?
These one has a four. Wait. No sides. This one has six.
What?
Yeah, six.
Six what?
5.
What are they? Are they congruent? What shape are they? So you're saying there's six, there's one right here, there's one in the back, there's one here, right? There's one over here, there's one over here. How many sides is that?
4 here.
That's, count them. 5. It's a pentagon. Look at the bottom. Each one of the bottoms of the triangle comes down to the pentagon at the bottom, doesn't it? So there's 5 triangles, one on each side. So there are 5 triangles, and each one of those triangles are congruent, aren't they? Okay? So that means that this one has 5 congruent triangles. Does the base have a congruent matching side?
No.
No, it doesn't. There's only one pentagon there, and that's the one on the bottom, and it does not have a matching partner. Okay? What shape is this base? I just asked this question, didn't I? It's a pentagon. Does that have a matching?
No.
I'm getting ahead of myself here. All right, now, these objects fall into 2 major groups. The first group is called rectangular prisms. The second group is called triangular prisms. We are going to deal with rectangular prisms first. So if you look at these 2 prisms, what do you notice about these 2 prisms, these rectangular prisms? They are alike in one way. What are they?
What is bigger?
Well, that's not how they're alike.
Yep.
Brooke,
They both have 3 congruent.
they do have, yeah, they both have 3 pairs of congruent sides. That's correct. Is there anything else, Cole?
What?
Pay attention.
There's only one test.
Yeah, I know. Why is he sitting there? Kate, back to your desk over wherever you're supposed to be. Slide forward then, okay? I don't know how you got back there anyway. So we have to take a look at these. How are they the same? We know they have congruent, 2 pairs of congruent sides. What else? Bill,
2 sides are bigger than the other.
that's size, that's not shape. Okay? How are they the same? Tiffany? Yes. Okay, they kind of look the same. How? You look at the size. I don't think the clock was size. David?
It's like they're both the same thing, but one's sideways, one's
Okay. How is it sit?
Okay, because they both have congruent pairs.
That's what someone else already said. Yeah, someone said it the other way. Abby?
They're both big squares.
There you go. Look at them. In both cases, they're all made of rectangles, aren't they?
That's square.
No, square is a rectangle. Just a special rectangle where the sides are the same. But these are all rectangles. This is a rectangle on the top. There's a rectangle on the top. A rectangle there. A rectangle there. A rectangle on the back. A rectangle on the back. A rectangle on the front. A rectangle on the front. The base is a rectangle. And of course the side over here. You notice they're all rectangles. That makes them what's called a rectangular. You look up in the word here. Rectangle. Well, it's spelled kind of weird, right? That's a rectangular prism, which means it's all rectangles. Now go to the second group. No, sorry, we had to pass on. Now I had to draw this because I couldn't find that picture. So what do you notice about these ones? Now we know they have rectangles. What else do you notice, Kate?
The shapes are different.
I know that, yeah.
I got one.
David?
They're both made out of triangles.
Okay, they're made of triangles, but are they all triangles? No. But if you notice something about the triangles, there's something unique and special about the triangles. Leon.
Both sides are made of triangles.
Exactly. If you look over here, on this one right here, see that triangle right there? There's a matching one over there, isn't there? So if I were to take you to the next slide, I put the arrows on for you to see. The sides of these are all made of triangles. And then what about all the shapes as you will go around this here and circle around between the triangles? What shapes are those? Rectangles, exactly. These are all rectangles as you went around in, the inside of the inside between the triangles, I guess is the best way of saying it. So they all have triangles facing each other, and they're all made up of rectangles other than that. Okay, so we talked a lot about the attributes of these objects. So how can we sort these? Well, we'll start out with the Venn diagram. First off, we have some rectangular prisms, and we have some triangular prisms. I need a volunteer. I gotta pull up my little popsicle sticks here because otherwise it's not fair. I need someone to come up here and sort these, and that person is Cole today. Alright, Cole. You have to put, why don't you put every rectangular prism you can find in there.
Rectangular. Oh.
But you put them where you think they're supposed to go, and then we'll talk about it, okay?
That's not a rectangle. Well, what do you think it is?
It's okay, he's thinking while he does this. It's okay.
What's the middle part mean? That means that they're both rectangle and triangle. What if it's not anything?
Can you get on the other side? Don't help them, okay, because you're just going to help them get it wrong. Are you done, you think?
Yeah.
Okay, give me the marker. Alright. How do you determine something's a rectangular prism? Sydney.
This rectangle on it?
It's all made up of rectangles. There's nothing else but rectangles there. So, is this made up of nothing but rectangles? No, so that one can't be in there. Move it out temporarily. Is this part of the rectangle circle, these two in here?
No.
They are they're in the rectangle, aren't they? That's the rectangle circle. This in here says a rectangular prism as well as a triangular prism. Do you think something could be both of those?
Yes.
No. So those have to come out. Now, we were talking yesterday about what is the geometric shape and what is not. We found out that the ones which had flat spaces were geometric shapes. This does not have a flat space, does it? So that is not a rectangular prism. It is not a triangular prism. This here is not even a prism, neither is this, and neither is this. These three things are called pyramids. Okay? The only triangular prism is this one.
Because two rectangles.
So that's the way you have to sort them.
There's two rectangles on it.
There's two rectangles on it, yes, but look at the part right here. Right there. No, I can't use blue, can I?
No.
Okay, that'll work. This right here, and that right there. What shapes are those? Exactly, that makes a triangular prism.
Oh,
All right? It's got triangles on the outside, and it's joined by rectangles all around the middle. Kind of like a Furby. Yeah, I did kind of. Does this one have any triangles on it at all? No, so that one's all rectangles. That makes it a rectangular prism. Going to the next one. Can you sort these in a different way that doesn't require the words rectangular prism or triangular prism? So you can make up your own way of sorting. Anyway. Okay, so why don't you tell me what the categories are, and then you can help me sort.
Okay, this one's not going to be a prism.
Okay, so this is not prisms. Okay.
And that one is prism.
Is prisms. Okay.
But then what's
All right. So take your magic marker. Put you on there. Okay, so sort them out.
and then three on
Done. I'm not going to say a word until she's done, okay?
What?
Word.
Five. No, eight. Say the word.
She's indecisive at the moment. I know.
So she left it and more arrows.
Are you done? Okay, you know what? Her categories that she created were prisms and not prisms. These three are the only prisms that are there. Everything else is not a prism. These are not prisms. Okay? If you go to the next slide. Actually, let's go back for a second and try this one again. Can you sort them in a different way?
Yes.
Just a second, I'm going to get everything set back up where it was. Grab my eraser.
That's our
All
water
right.
meter.
Who else hasn't been for a while? Ethan, do you have any ways you think of doing this?
No.
Meg?
No.
Well, let's post it. It is Caitlin. Okay, it is Brooke today. All right, Brooke. So you have to come up here and sort these in some way. I'll let you help get started out here. What are the two ways you think you should sort these? How are you going to do it? Good idea. So we're going to have flat sides, or flat faces, that's our word. And we have a curved faces. Okay? So you take that, and then you get back on the corner. Okay, so let's see how you do. Alright, so we got that. Okay, good job. Excellent. Okay, let's go to the next slide now. Now, this is one of the ones from the textbook. I knew when I started looking through the textbook that this one was going to give you some trouble. So what I decided to do is I decided to take a look at it and try to work with it to give you a little bit of a head start on it. So it says, look at the objects below. Find two attributes. What is an attribute? You can tell me what that means. Shape. Very nice.
Shape and size.
Shape and size, a way to describe it. So, you want to find two attributes. Sort the objects, use the letters to help you record your sorting, and write your rule. So, if you go to the next slide, I've created a little mini one down here with a step up front. So this is very similar to the other ones, alright? Why don't you come up and try to figure out what you're going to do here. So what are you going to sort them by? What are your criteria? What are your rules? Pentagons, okay. And over on this side? Rectangles. And are you talking about the face shape? Okay, so rectangular, I can't spell it. So rectangular faces, and these ones have pentagonal faces, okay? So, alright, so these are his two. He's going to sort them by the shapes of their faces, okay? So, you can't drag these. You're just writing, oh, so you just got to write the letter in this time? Because you can't drag them. That was from the textbook. So, you have to put the letters in the right spot. Start with A. Is A got a rectangular face, a pentagonal face, or not, both or neither? Where do you think A goes? Good job. A's on the outside. B. Good job. B's on the outside. C. Where does that go? Good job. D. E. It kind of depends on how you made your rule. Is your rule having at least one rectangular face? Then where would it go? We'll assume it has to have one rectangular face to get into that rule, that area. So that means E goes there. Okay. What about F? Okay. G. Oh, where's your G? Here's the G. Where's G? Bottom row. Yeah.
What was the day?
So G has got, that's, gotta be careful. That's a hexagon, it's not a pentagon.
Where's the wall?
Okay.
Oh.
Oops, I gotta get back on pen here. Okay. So D.
Say something?
Hey Ryan, what's happening, anybody? Can you get back on your pen though? Alright, very good. Okay, so we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Good idea. That one's got a rectangle on the outside. Alright, and H, got that one. I, there's no I. J. Where's J go? Careful about the J. Alright, excellent. J is on the outside. What about K? That's right. There's no rectangles on a K. L. Is there no? There's no L. There's no, we're down to M. N. There's no O. What about P? Does P have a rectangle in it?
L.
P. And what about Q?
There's L.
No. And there's Q. Okay. Now, thank you. Did he create two rules that work?
No.
Yes, he did. Are there any pentagonal faces on those objects?
No.
No. Is there any in his circle? No. So he did it right. Right? But next time when you guys do, you might want to choose something that you can actually have something in the circle. But that's okay. All right? He was right here.
No, on the chart.
Right here.
Oh.
Okay? So, does everybody understand how to do this question now? All right, so I'm going to move on to the next one. And that is, let's see what time. And it's 3:12, so the time to get started. So let's keep going.
Oh, it's 3:14.